let's see if we can go a little bit deeper, just for a few minutes. What I'd like you to do is pick the 2 cards that are most like you, that you feel most represent you, and make a note of the 2 cards. And make a note of the colors of the dots on the 2 cards that you picked. I'd like to see if we could run a survey. Matt, are you able to launch the survey for me? Very good. So if you've picked 2 cards the same, such as green, blue, yellow, or red, then you should find that option there. If you've picked 2 different cards, then it doesn't matter which way around they're shown on the survey there. It doesn't matter if it says green and red or red and green. See if you could pick the option that's most like yourself. Good. Just giving people a moment to do that. So, I think you probably end the survey, Matt. Cool. And if you share the results, are you able to do that? I don't know if everybody was able to access the survey there.
Should be visible for people. You got nothing determinative there, Gordon. Green, red, green, yellow, green, blue.
Not an awful lot. Go and just close that poll for me. Can everyone still see my slides? Yeah, cool. So, what's it telling us? Well, this is what's known as disc profiling, and both Matt and I are certified trainers in disc. So, this stands D-I-C-S-C. First of all, D stands for dominance. People that were on the picking green color on the cards, it's a little bit of analysis of personality type. So those sort of people tend to be, and it's not a judgment on the person, it's a behavior, and there's no right or wrong here, but they tend to be more outgoing and extroverted, but for them it's more about facts, a little bit more skeptical in their attitude. The good thing about them is they're quite direct and self-assured. At its extreme, they can be quite forceful, but they're outgoing, they're daring, they're risk takers. They get things done. You'll come across them a fair bit in business, because arguably every successful business owner needs at least a little bit of D. Slight challenge with somebody who's very high D is they might be inclined to run over the top of people. It may not be very popular. Their biggest fear is being taken advantage of, appearing weak or vulnerable. Somebody who's chosen the red card, and you may be that you chose 2, so you may be halfway between 2 colors. The red at its extreme, these tend to be more extroverted, outgoing people, and for them it's more about people rather than facts. Does that make sense? So they tend to be very influential, persuasive, confident. Life and soul of the party. We all know somebody like that. We've got a lot of friends. Slight challenge with them can be they never actually get anything done. They're too busy building relationships. But again, business needs customers. So these skills or these people can be very important for the business. Typically, salespeople. Their biggest fear is being ignored, or loss of influence, or disapproval. The blue cards, and again, as I say, you could be halfway between. We only picked two, it was just an example. But the blue tend to be more about people, but they're a little bit more cautious and introverted, not as outgoing and extroverted. So their good points is they're very loyal. If you're good to them, they'll be very loyal to you. Very sincere, very much a team player, very patient, good listener. Slight challenge at its extreme, of course, is that it may be difficult to change or redirect them within the business. This is the way we've always done it. But they're the sort of person that's maybe the mother hen in the office, the one everybody goes to for a word of comfort and an arm around the shoulder. Again, can be very important within the office. Their biggest fear is change or offending others, loss of stability. So the fourth category, conscientious. They tend to be more cautious and introverted, and for them, it's all about facts and skeptical. So very conscientious, high standards, accurate, fact finder. I have to say, stereotypical, traditionally, accountants. Not always, but stereotypically. The downside with the high C, as I would put it, is that some people might think they've got a problem for every solution. Their biggest fear is criticism or being wrong. Again, very important within the office. And we all have a little bit of all of this. But again, we tend to have a little bit of preference. So if you're speaking to a client, it can be helpful to have a bit of an understanding about what sort of personality type they are. It helps with the communication. The high D, when you're addressing fee issues, for example, it helps to understand how different people like to be communicated with. The high D, green in our example here, the more outgoing and extroverted, but likes facts. With them, you want to get to the point quickly. Focus on the big picture. They don't need the detail. They're the sort of person that said, I've said this once, I don't have to expect to repeat myself. Again, you'll have met people like that. Focus on results and make efficient use of time. The red, the high I, are much more open to conversation. You might spend most of the meeting passing the time, building rapport, discussing family, building that relationship. They're very open to collaboration, and they tend to be optimistic and spontaneous. You want to build a relationship with these people and show enthusiasm. The S, it's more about when communicating with them, showing warmth. Respect their slightly more cautious pace and avoid being too forceful. As I said, tend to be slightly more introverted. For them, it's about people. It's still about the relationships, but they're not as outgoing as the I, the red. So take the time to listen. Take an easygoing approach. Don't force anything with them. And C, the yellow, they just want the facts. I don't need a story. Just give me the facts. So in your approach to them, what they'll respect is the detail, focusing on logic. Expect skepticism. And show appreciation for their logic and emphasize high standards. I hope you can see that it's about understanding that different people take in information in different ways and actually process information different. I've heard it said so often that other person's just being difficult. Maybe they're not being difficult. Maybe that's just how they process information. And if you've got the flexibility to recognize it and adapt your approach, then that puts you in control. Ralph Waldo Emerson once says, "Who you are speaks so loudly, I cannot hear what you're saying." We give it away in our language, we give it away in our approach. And if you're alert enough to pick that up, then it helps build that rapport, communication, and keep a long-term client. So I'm going to hand over to Chris shortly. Before I do, just a quick recap. The first bit we spoke about was when the why gets stronger, the how gets easier. If you recognize the importance of having the right fee structure, getting the right respect back for what you're doing, and how, if that's important to you, then it makes it easier and makes every day easier. And then we spoke about, have a little bit of fun with identifying different client personality types. And then the third thing I would say is maybe think about who in the office is best suited to certain projects. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen and pass over to Chris Johnson from GoProposal, who's going to take us through the next part of the slide. What I would say is that I spoke earlier about taking over a business myself and building up the profits within that business. One of the things that helped me hugely is exactly what Chris is about to share with us. Made a massive difference. So if I can pass over to Chris, are you able to?
Thanks, Gordon.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
just make sure I can share my screen. Hopefully it's still working as it was when we tested it.